Former Raptors head coach Nick Nurse has just signed with the Philadelphia 76ers, so in today's video we're going to assess how his coaching style fits in Philadelphia, but more importantly, how this could affect the Toronto Raptors. Let's get into it. Welcome everybody to Amateur Hour TV, the second channel in the Amateur Hour production network. On this channel, we go through additional Toronto Raptors and NBA content and videos just like this, where the style is a little bit different, a little bit more personality, a little bit less formal, but still that same NBA and Raptors content that you love. So if you like what you see from today's video, please make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to Amateur Hour TV for content like this all throughout the offseason. But the big thing today that we wanted to discuss is Nick Nurse. Nick Nurse has just signed on as the head coach of the Philadelphia 76ers, and this is a little bit surprising to see. We saw that last week he pulled out of the race for the Milwaukee Bucks head coaching spot. I don't know if that was Nick Nurse maybe not wanting to become the Milwaukee head coach. Maybe that's because he wanted to sign elsewhere. Maybe he knew that Adrian Griffin was in the pole position to get that job and decided that he wanted to pull out of the race to make it clear to the other teams, like potentially the Phoenix Suns, like potentially the Philadelphia 76ers, of course, that he was open for business over there. Whatever happened, he pulled out of the Milwaukee Bucks coaching race. And from my perspective, when that happened, it became apparent that he was going to join the Phoenix Suns. I really did not see this one coming. I was fully believing at that moment that he was going to join the Phoenix Suns. I mean, you get a coach Kevin Durant, you get a coach Devin Booker. Maybe he can work on retooling the way the team plays offense. Very difficult to play offense with the lack of overall depth with the team. Very difficult to play offense with the amount of mid-range shooters on that team. And I mean, if your team doesn't have a lot of depth, Nick Nurse doesn't really use it anyway. So, you can load up on the starter minutes regardless. So it seemed like a pretty good fit for him in Phoenix just to retool the offense a little bit. But instead, to my surprise, he's joined a little bit of a rival here for the Toronto Raptors in the Philadelphia 76ers. As far as rivals go for the Raptors, we've just been really bad throughout our history. We were never good up until 2013. We had a few good years here and there, but we were never really competitive other than that Vince Carter season where we lost to Philadelphia in that Game 7, early 2000s. But because the Raptors are a relatively new team compared to the rest of the league, and because the Raptors haven't had sustained success in the NBA until the last decade, there hasn't really been those rivalries that have developed within the team. But one rivalry that is brewing a little bit certainly is the Philadelphia 76ers. I hate the Boston Celtics, but that's me hating Boston sports. As far as Toronto's rival, I don't think there's a bigger one than the 76ers. Now, if you're a 76ers fans, they probably won't say the Raptors are their biggest rival. I don't know. Maybe they will. But to us, that's a bit of a rival here. You had that 2019 series. You had the 2022 series where Philadelphia wins in 6. Obviously, we won in 7 in 2019 and eventually, by the way, won the NBA championship. What's crazy is that the Philadelphia 76ers actually haven't been to a conference finals since the Allen Iverson days. So they had the MVP this season. They have a really, really good team, but somehow they never got into a conference finals. But maybe Nick Nurse is a guy that can take them over the hump. This is a little bit reminiscent of when he took over as a Raptors coach. This is a 76ers team. I mean, we got to be honest here. A very talented team that has underperformed year after year after year. I wouldn't say the Raptors underperformed year after year when Dwayne Casey was the coach. They ran into LeBron every year, but they needed something a little bit different to get over the hump. And the reason I don't call the Cavaliers a rival was that it wasn't a rivalry because they kicked our ass every year. But we've had a little bit of a back and forth with the 76ers. So I wouldn't say it's a sour taste seeing Nurse go there, but it's kind of damn, why do you go to Philadelphia? A cross-division rival as well where we're going to be playing them 4 times this season. I don't want that. I want to go to Phoenix so we wouldn't have to deal with that. And right now, the Raptors are not really looking like a bona fide playoff team as the 76ers are, but, still, I wish he went to the Western Conference. But Nick Nurse, he got fired by the Raptors. It was in his right to go wherever he saw fit, and for some reason, he saw the best fit to be with the Philadelphia 76ers. And part of the surprise for this isn't just, part of the surprise for this isn't just me thinking hey, he's going to a bit of a rival here. It's him working with Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid and Nick Nurse have had their beef in the past. And I remember it was 1-2 months ago during the first round of the series of the playoffs when the 76ers were taking on the Brooklyn Nets. Nick Nurse caught a stray from Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid said that the Brooklyn Nets took the Nick Nurse approach and were complaining about calls. You can go to the channel, and I actually spoke about that in a video. But I made a video because I was like, Joel Embiid complaining about somebody else complaining about free throw calls. Like, of all people to complain about that, it's Joel Embiid. But, we have two of the people who complain the most to officials in the NBA, and they are working together, Nick Nurse and Joel Embiid. I think this is going to quickly become one of the most hated teams in the NBA for the amount of complaining that they are going to do. I already don't like Joel Embiid. I think watching Nick Nurse do that for another team might have me a little bit sour when the Raptors ultimately match up against the 76ers. But what is the fit really looking like here? Nick Nurse is obviously a very defense-minded coach, and I think he's kind of relishing an opportunity here to work with Joel Embiid from a defensive standpoint, but obviously as an offensive player as well. This is a pretty massive offseason for the 76ers. Nurse obviously expects to be working with a contender for next season, but a lot could go wrong for the 76ers here. Harden could join the Houston Rockets or go wherever. Harden may not stay. There's the debacle with Tobias Harris's contract. Only one more year of that contract, but he's making $39 million this season. And there's just going to be difficulties in assembling a team as good as what it was last season. So we'll just have to kind of wait and see on that entire situation. But ultimately, like I said, for the fit, it feels like reminiscent of the Raptors in 2019 when he joined. It's him getting a team over the hump. We'll see if he is able to do that. Regardless of Nick Nurse's coaching, if Joel Embiid folds in elimination games again, like he always has done in his career, then there's no chance Nick Nurse's coaching will do anything about that. If Harden is back and he has his typical 2 of 11 or 3 of 11 elimination game performance, and there's not much you can do about that. But from a fit perspective, I think it makes a good amount of sense for Nick Nurse. As far as the Raptors, how this is going to affect Toronto, kind of sucks we have to play them so often. For the near future, there probably isn't going to be too much of an effect on the Raptors. You don't want to match up against them in a playoff session, or in a playoff series, that's for sure. But with the way things are going for the Raptors, I don't think we're going to have to really worry about that. Although, definitely could see the Sixers sneaking in as a top 2 seed. Definitely could see the Raptors sneaking in as a bottom 2 seed in the playoffs, coming through the play-in tournament. In which case, hey, maybe a first-round matchup does happen. So I guess there is a little bit of an effect there. And what the effect would be, I'm sure Nurse isn't exactly happy about getting fired from the Raptors, isn't exactly happy about the way the season went. And we saw with the Dwayne Casey curse when he went to the Pistons. There's already quite a bit of emphasis when the Raptors play the Sixers these days. The teams don't like each other. Joel Embiid certainly does not like the Raptors. And there's going to be a little bit of extra emphasis now, even more of an emphasis now on the 76ers side playing against their coach's former team. They're going to buy into the coach, I'm sure. They're going to buy into what Nick Nurse has, and they're going to buy into wanting to kick his old team's ass. So from a Raptors perspective, like from a regular season perspective, I don't see too much of an effect here, but certainly doesn't make me particularly happy that our former head coach has gone to our crosstown rivals. Not mad at Nurse. Again, he's within his right to do that. I'm not particularly happy that we have to deal with that like 4 times a season now. But as far as Nick Nurse, I hope that when he does ultimately return to Toronto, he gets met with great applause. I would say he's the greatest coach in the history of the Raptors. He won a Coach of the Year, one of the few who did. Dwayne Casey did as well. But no other were able to get us to the pinnacle of the sport and get us to that NBA championship. So I hope he's met with great applause. I hope there's a little bit of a montage. I don't know. Can you do a montage for a coach when they come back? They do player montages. What would the Nick Nurse montage look like? You'd have a lot of deep squats. You'd have Drake rubbing his shoulders in the 2019 run to the championship. You'd have Nurse, I guess, in the parade. You'd have Nurse speaking after the parade on stage. You'd have Nurse screaming on the side. I guess there's some certain things that you could do. Nick Nurse playing with the Arkells. Appearing on, what was that show he appeared on, the cameo he did, was it Murdoch Mystery, something like that? I don't know. There's probably stuff you can do, but I ultimately hope he gets a great reception here. It's just sad to see him go to a team that I very much dislike in the 76ers rather than the Phoenix Suns. So next move for the Raptors, look, obviously Nurse wasn't involved in our search for a next head coach. I am seeing some reports starting to come through. It's not surprising the Raptors have kept hush on it, but Some credible reporters are saying that the Raptors head coaching search is nearly coming to an end. We're seeing that there are a set group of finalists in the Raptors coaching search. From what I can gauge, looks like Jordi Fernandez is involved. It really is starting to appear as though Sergio Scariolo is involved to a certain degree. I also, to a lesser degree, cannot rule out Steve Nash from being one of those finalists. So we'll have to see on that situation, but I feel like a head coaching reveal is pretty imminent for the Raptors. I think we'll see it within the week, but as far as Nurse, I mean, he wasn't going to come back. Raptors are being patient. They're going to make their next move and find the right head coach, hopefully, to take them on in the future. We'll just have to wait and see what Nurse does in Philadelphia. I'm not going to wish him well because I wish nothing, well, I wouldn't say nothing, but I wish a lot of the worst for that Sixers organization. So we'll see how everything transpires in the offseason. But big offseason ahead for Philly, but a massive one for the Raptors as well. If you guys did enjoy this video, make sure you're subscribed to Amateur Hour TV. Make sure you drop a like as well. Around my head right now, well, first of all, in the bottom corner, there's another video that you may want to check out on this channel. But there's also all of my other channels here in the Amateur Hour Production Network. Make sure you're checking them out. My Amateur Hour Sports main channel, Amateur Hour Reactions, best highlights from the streams, and Amateur Hour Bets, educational sports betting content when I can. We'll see you again next time for another video on Amateur Hour TV.